Okay, well, what I'll do for you today is what I call a Replot Stinger, and it's a just a combination of feathers and fur, which are really effective materials and fly to be catching pike with. What I've done is just taken some white Chinese neckhackle feathers, and I'm going to mix them with some chartreuse schlappens. Uh, take the feather like so, and mix in a schlappen next to it, and then we can put another white feather behind that, so that we've pretty much got a feather ratio set up like that. What I like to do is you can actually tie these feathers so that the feathers are splayed outwards, but with this kind of a fly I really like to have the feathers facing inwards together, pretty much like a deceiver style fly. So I'll just take the first bunch and just tie that on to the one side of the hook, onto the near side facing side of the hook itself. I'll just cut that away, and then I'll do the same again. I'll take a white feather and take a green one like so, and then add the other white one around the other side of it, and pretty much just keep them together like so, and then turn the vise over slightly, and then stick the feathers on the other side of the hook, and then just tie those feathers on to the back of the hook itself. Alright, snip away the excess. So now you've pretty much got all of the feathers towards the back, and these give a lot of real movement, you know, in the water itself. And let me just stick some more cotton towards the back. Alright, after every time that I've tied on, and what I suggest you do is just to keep the strengthening of the fly, so that they, you know, the longevity of the fly lasts a long time, take a bit of head cement and just give a good covering of head cement over the tied off area, maybe another small little blob. This really just keeps the fly bonded, and every material that I add I will always do the same. So now you've got the feathers towards the back, which give a lot of movement. And now what we will do is I'll add some bit of white raccoon. The raccoon to me is probably one of the best materials, or sort of natural fur materials on the market today, and I really don't want to be using a lot of this. So what I'll do is I'll cut off maybe an inch, maybe an inch and a half of this fur, like so. Cut that off there, throw that to the back, and then just take your comb and comb through the under hair, so, and we'll get rid of that. So now we've got the raccoon itself. You really want to be actually tying it so you can see that the actual fur is sort of facing backwards down. You want to take the back end of the strip that you've cut, split it open here like so, just wet it on either end like that. And what we'll do is we'll tie this on towards the very back of the hook shaft, and we'll just take that and have a couple of wraps underneath. Let me just clear this away. Oops, let's just come out. Let me just, okay, and we'll tie this on. You can use a dabbing brush loop, but you know, to keep it simple, and for guys who really want to tie their flies, really a thin strip of this raccoon tied on this way is the easiest method for them. And then once that's tied on, you just run the cotton along the length as far as you think that the raccoon is going to be. Take that down, and then what we'll do is I'll just take a small blob of this head cement just to keep this in place like so, and then we'll take the fly material, always brush the material back towards the back of the hook shaft itself. Pull it nice and tight, roll it over, and then pull the material out. As you can see, wrap it again, pull the material back like so, wrap it over again, pull the material back, and this is a bit of the tricky part, and just wrap it over again. Take your finger, hold it nice and tight, pull all the material back. It's really the way that the fly is going to move forward. It's going to actually give a lot of movement. And take your cotton, and you really want to pull down quite tightly on the cotton. You really want to use strong cotton. I'm using Kevlar cotton here. Tie that down like so. So now you've got pretty much the back end body of the fly itself. This through the water actually does vibrate and move and pulse. A lot of the times with flies, you really want to give the fly a lot of movement in the water and breathing, and this raccoon really does work extremely well. So now that I've tied that on there, you really want to give another blob of head cement, just so that it keeps everything in sort of place, and you know, extends the lifespan of the fly itself. Now we've got that. Now we'll take some crystal flash, probably in sort of like a, what is this, crystal mirror flash yellow, and you don't want to be using a lot of material here. You don't want to be using like a large clump unless you're going to be tying a flash fly. What I like to do is maybe take maybe 10 strands, if not less, maybe 8 strands, about so much that you have. Snap that off down towards the end, and you can see that these are all pretty much the same length on both sides. And what I like to do is like to take my finger through the middle and just pull some of the length out so that they're all different lengths, and this can be done on the same side as well. This will extend the length of the crystal flash slightly if you tie it in the center. And what I'll do is, now got the crystal flash like so, tie a small clump onto the hook just over the back like so, and then fold that back over. So you really just have a little bit of flash. You know, I always say that less is more, and you really want something that's just going to glint in the sun. And that should be enough. We'll tie that down. We'll tie that onto there like so. And that's pretty much all you're really going to have. I mean, you don't really need any more flash than that. A little bit more head cement. Put a blob of that on like so. And now what will end off the fly, we'll use some chartreuse zonker, raccoon zonker as well. What I'll do is first I'll just run the cotton down the length of the hook shaft towards the eye, so that the zonker has something really to bond to when you actually wrap it around the hook. And we'll start off back down the end. Let me just trim a piece of the raccoon, probably what 2.5 inches of raccoon. You don't need a lot. I'll just take the comb and just comb through the actual zonker itself, just to get rid of the excess underfur, to cut down on the weight. One of the reasons why a lot of people don't actually, you know, use natural materials, because they absorb a lot more water, but you know, at the end of the day, natural materials load your line a lot better, and they give a lot more movement to me than sort of synthetic, you know, baitfish patterns. Anyway, so you've got the movement of the fur is actually facing backwards itself. We'll go down to the back of the zonker strip, split it up like so, just wet it so that it's more manageable when you actually tie it on. Take the cotton, give it one wrap, 2 wraps. You can wrap 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 wraps depending on how you want to keep it attached to the hook itself. I usually do maybe 4 or 5 or 6 wraps. Add a small blob of head cement to the top of that so that it bonds, so that it won't slide out. Just let that dry for a couple of seconds. Lift up your raccoon like so, and take the cotton all the way back down towards the end of the hook eye. Just leave it like so. Now what we'll do is we'll do the same as what we did with the white raccoon. Take the fur, pull the fur back, pull it over. Constantly keep on pulling the fur back to, to the back of the hook eye. On, wrap around, pull. Just remember to, keep the wraps quite nice and tight. It'll keep the fly quite compact, as well as compact all of the materials as you pull it back. Pull the fly back, materials, wrap it over again, like so. The last wrap probably like to there. Okay, so we've pretty much come down to the end of the hook eye now. What I'll do is I'll snip the excess away because you don't really need that. Let me just snip that away. Okay, so we got that out of the way. Centralize everything. Hold that piece down. A couple of wraps, and then you want to tighten. Wrap this on towards the front of the hook, like so. That's pretty much the fly itself. Take a small blob of head cement, let that go around the other side. Take the whip finisher, and then what we'll do is we'll just actually whip finish this fly itself. And wrap, wrap, wrap off. A lot of people just generally use one sort of whip finished. I like to use 2 and 3, and then run the cotton along the length of the fly, pull out, and that's it. That's pretty much it now. If there was a fly that I was going to use for, for the rest of my life as a normal fly, my go-to fly, the Replot Stinger is pretty much, that's the fly that I would use. And it doesn't look like much here, but that fly in the water is going to pulse and vibrate and give off a lot of vibrations. There's a little bit of flash inside there. Every time you strip, it goes quite thin, but then when the fly actually stops, all of this sort of spreads out, and you really want to actually be stripping this fly back in short strips, and then a long strip, and then let the fly sort of hang and then start to sink, and then as soon as you strip back again, it all sort of thins out, and then all of these feathers really come into the own. And probably the most effective fly that I've had in the last sort of 2 seasons here on the island. And there's a lot of similarities. You can say that I'm using the feathers for in the same way as sort of a deceiver style fly, but the fur itself, the fly is extremely light, really light, and even when it's coated with water, it's extremely easy to cast. And yeah, good fly.